This winter, I've got to level with you. Something about the setup this year just doesn't sit quietly in the back of my mind. I'm looking at the charts, the ocean temperatures, the jet stream patterns, and what I keep seeing is volatility. This is not shaping up to be one of those calm, quiet winters where you can predict the rhythm weeks in advance. No, this is looking like one of those wild cards, the kind of winter that makes you wake up in the middle of the night and wonder what's coming next. One week you're bundled up against an Arctic blast so cold it hurts to breathe. The next week you're scratching your head because you're outside grilling in a hoodie. The swings could be that dramatic. We're talking about polar vortex disruptions. Icy wind, chills that dig into your bones. Monster snowstorms that can shut entire cities down. And yes, even severe weather outbreaks at times you least expect. The atmosphere is setting up for chaos. And honestly, it feels like the quiet winters we've gotten used to over the last few years just won't hold a candle to what's coming. So the question is why? Why is this winter different? To really understand it, we've got to pull the camera way back, out over the Pacific Ocean. Because what happens with ocean temperatures out there? That's what writes the script for what we live through here in the US. And sitting right at the center of this story is the El Niño Southern Oscillation, or ENSO. This thing is like the director of the winter play, and the mood it chooses sets the stage for everything that follows. ENSO comes with 3 personalities. First, El Niño. That's when Pacific waters warm up and the southern jet stream goes into overdrive. Storm after storm crashes into the southern US. Flooding threats ramp up from California to the Gulf, while the northern tier often gets left mild and dry. Arctic air? Forget it. El Niño tends to slam the brakes on those outbreaks up north. Then there's La Niña, the total opposite. Cold Pacific waters shove the jet stream north, and suddenly the northern US gets buried under snow and plunged into bitter cold, while the south turns warmer and drier. And La Niña? Oh, it loves to throw open the door to Canada's deep freeze, letting those brutal Arctic blasts roar into the Midwest and Northeast. But here's the kicker. This year, we don't really have either of those personalities in charge. Instead, we're stuck in the messy middle. Neutral conditions, with just the slightest lean toward La Niña. And let me tell you, that is what makes this winter a complete wild card. Neutral years are notorious for their mood swings. One week it's winter Armageddon, the next it's spring fever. That instability is exactly what makes me sit up in my chair. Think back to 2013, 2014. If you lived through it, you don't need me to explain. That winter was relentless. Arctic air poured south time and time again. Wind chills brutal enough to shut down entire regions. And snowstorms that just kept stacking up across the Midwest and Northeast. It felt like the polar vortex had packed a suitcase and moved in permanently. And here's where things get eerie. Back in 2013, hurricane season was oddly quiet. Not a single hurricane made US landfall. Sound familiar? Because this year, 2025, we've seen a strangely suppressed hurricane season too. The parallels are almost spooky. And in 2013, it wasn't just the cold. The East Coast got hammered over and over again, with storm tracks that turned the Northeast into a battlefield of ice and snow. That's why the setup has me on edge. A neutral pattern leaning La Niña is like flipping a coin every week, and that coin can land in some extreme places. So, what do I see coming in 2025? For the northern plains, the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, buckle up. Below average temperatures are likely to dominate, and I wouldn't be surprised to see cold that rivals or even outdoes 2013. This time, the reach could be wider, spreading that Arctic bite across an even larger chunk of the country. The Dakotas, the Great Lakes, the Midwest, get ready. Those cold fronts could roll in like clockwork. But not everyone's freezing. Down south in Florida, southern Texas, and much of the West Coast, I'm seeing warmer, drier conditions. That said, don't think that means snow is impossible. All it takes is one perfectly timed system. And suddenly, you're watching flakes fall in places that haven't seen them in decades. Precipitation-wise, 2025 could flip the script on 2013. Instead of widespread dryness, I'm seeing more rain and snow stacking up across the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, and the Northeast. That means more than just cold. We're talking ice storms, messy nor'easters, heavy snow events. The kind of storms that can paralyze travel and knock out power grids. Meanwhile, the Gulf Coast and West Coast, another dry winter may be looming, and that could deepen drought concerns. But there's something else I don't think enough people are talking about. severe weather. A lot of folks forget that late fall and early winter bring what we call second severe weather season. Gulf moisture mixing with an active jet stream, that's a recipe for tornado outbreaks, even in November and December. Think back to November 17th, 2013. 73 tornadoes in one day, some of them devastating. This year, the pattern looks eerily capable of something similar. So here's the big picture, the way I see it. The Ohio Valley and Tennessee Valley, they're sitting in the bullseye of a winter battleground. Ice, snow, maybe even severe weather outbreaks. The Northeast, I'm expecting more nor'easters than we've seen in recent years, and that means big snow for major population centers. And by December, that battle zone spreads south, pulling in states like Texas, Oklahoma, and Kentucky, sometimes with surprise snowfalls that catch everyone off guard. Now, let's start building this snowfall picture from the ground up. And I mean literally ground up, because first there are the places where winter just skips, the no-snow zone. South Florida, deep South Texas, parts of Southern California. Snow there is like a ghost story. You might hear about it, but most people will never actually see it. If it happens, it's once in a century. A dusting that melts before you even find your phone to take a picture. That's our foundation, but then we start climbing. Trace to 3 inches. These are the in-betweeners, the folks who wake up once every couple of years to a thin blanket of white, but can't ever count on it. Go a little north, and now we're talking 3 to 6 inches. That's a couple of shovelable storms each year. Nothing epic, but enough to remind you that yes, winter still exists. Push a little higher, and we hit the 6 to 12-inch band. These areas can bank on multiple solid snowfalls every season. This isn't if, it's when. And then the numbers just keep climbing. A foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, even more. We're talking Midwest, Great Lakes, New England's mountains. These aren't just towns that get snow. These are towns that are built around snow. Snow days are cultural. Entire local economies spin around it. And then, of course, we've got the monsters. The Rockies, the Sierra Nevada, the Cascades, upstate New York with its lake-effect snow machines. These are the 48 to 72-inch zones where snow isn't an event. It's a lifestyle. And then the crown jewel, the 72-inch plus club. Bright red on the map, mountain peaks. Great Lakes snowbelts. Spots where every winter brings storm after storm after storm. Where digging out is a part of daily life. Where the question isn't, will it snow? But how much this time? That's the averages. But averages are just the beginning. And this is where the story takes a sharp turn. Because averages only give you the skeleton. The real winter is in the flesh and blood. The timing, the storm tracks, the cold snaps, the collisions of air masses that turn an ordinary season into one for the history books. And when I look at this year's setup, let's just say, I'm seeing fireworks. Here's what the models are screaming. The Southwest? I've got bad news. With a weak La Niña, or maybe a neutral setup leaning that way, the storm track just doesn't favor you. California, Arizona, New Mexico, below average snow. Now don't get me wrong, below average in the Sierra Nevada still means more snow than most of the country ever dreams of. But compared to what you're used to, expect less. Now flip the map. Head north and east of the Rockies. That's where the real drama begins. Colder than normal air spilling into the central and eastern U.S. combine, that with storm tracks juiced up with moisture. And you've got the recipe for a snow lover's dream. I'm giving some of these zones a rare 4 out of 5 confidence level. That's how strong the signals are. December, watch the Pacific Northwest. A roaring Pacific jet, pounding Washington and Oregon, dumping feet of mountain snow, flooding rains, and atmospheric rivers. Meanwhile, classic Colorado lows dive out of the Rockies and explode across the Midwest. Kansas City, St. Louis, Chicago. Early season blockbusters are on the table. January, things get sharp. Arctic air spilling down from Canada. Siberian-level cold shots slamming into the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin. The kind of cold that makes your teeth ache when you breathe. At the same time, the Pacific jet fuel storms into the Ohio Valley. The Great Lakes and Midwest? That's jackpot territory for massive snow events. Shut down the interstate kind of storms. So let's boil it down. Pacific Northwest, wet, stormy, snowy in the mountains. Southwest, dry, warm, drought deepening. Midwest and Great Lakes, cold, snowy, blizzard potential through the roof. Northeast, icy, stormy, big snow chances. Southeast, stormy, warm, severe weather in play.